All right, so you ready to dive in? Today, we're tackling franchises.
Franchises. Ah, yes.
You know those businesses that are like everywhere you look, they all have that familiar logo?
Right, right.
And maybe you've thought about owning one yourself, like picture this, your name up on a storefront.
Yeah.
But before you go all in, we got to talk about the not so glamorous side of franchising.
The dark side, huh?
Yeah, franchise fraud. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, you know what I mean?
Definitely not. It's crucial for anyone even thinking about a franchise to understand this.
For sure. So, to kick things off, how about we get a clear definition on the table?
Okay, well, the FBI actually, they defined franchise fraud as basically it's a pyramid scheme, but it's disguised as a business opportunity.
Whoa, a pyramid scheme? That sounds scary. So, how does that actually work?
Well, imagine instead of, actually focusing on selling a product or service, they're more interested in just recruiting more and more people.
Ah, so it's like they just keep adding more people to the bottom?
Exactly. And that creates this system that is, well, ultimately it's unsustainable.
Just like a house of cards.
Pretty much. And the folks at the top, they might be making money for a while, but eventually...
The whole thing comes crashing down.
Exactly. And the folks at the bottom, they're the ones left holding the bag.
Ugh, that's rough. So let's talk about how to avoid ending up in that situation. How do these scammers actually operate?
Well, they've got a whole bunch of tricks up their sleeve, but we can break them down.
Our sources outline like 6 main types of franchise fraud.
Yeah, let's go through them.
The first one is like straight up deception, misrepresenting earnings and profits.
Oh, that's a classic. Think about those, before and after photos that are, well, let's just say enhanced.
Uh-huh.
Fraudulent franchisers, they'll do the same thing with their numbers. They'll make these promises of unbelievable profits.
And you're just like drooling over these amazing projections.
Exactly. But the problem is often there's nothing solid backing those numbers up. It's all smoke and mirrors.
So they might like pick out a few super successful franchisees, but ignore all the ones that are struggling.
Exactly. They only show you the good stuff, the outliers.
So they're basically selling you a fantasy.
Yeah, you got to be
Nice.
careful. You got to think critically. It's like being a detective.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, you got to look for the clues, the evidence that, well, that might contradict what they're saying.
So for example, if they say you'll be making $1 million in the first year.
Exactly. You got to ask, okay, show me the proof. Where are those numbers coming from?
Right, show me the receipts.
Exactly. Don't just take their word for it.
So rule number 1, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, what's the next red flag?
Well, there's this super important document. It's called the Franchise Disclosure Document, or FDD for short.
FDD. All right, I've heard of that.
It's basically your lifeline in this whole process.
Okay, why is that?
It's a legal document, and it lays out, like, everything about the franchise. Their financials, their history, any lawsuits they've been involved in.
So like all the dirty laundry?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Legitimate franchisers, they're happy to share this document.
Okay, so if they're trying to avoid giving me the FDD.
That's a huge red flag, like
Yeah.
run for the hills kind of red flag.
Got it. Don't mess around with that.
Definitely not. And speaking of things that can cost you, we got to talk about those hidden fees.
Ugh. Yeah, those are the worst. They get you every time.
It's like they lure you in with this, like, reasonable franchise fee, but then
bam, you get hit with all these extra costs.
royalties, marketing fees, even the price of supplies can be inflated.
It's like buying a used car and then finding out you got to replace the engine.
Yeah, a real nightmare. Our source actually mentioned this case where a franchisee was quoted $100,000 investment.
Sounds reasonable.
Right. But then after they signed, all these extra fees popped up.
Oh, no.
And it ended up costing them way more. Like, way more.
So how do you avoid that trap?
Transparency is key. Ask for a complete breakdown of all the costs. Don't be afraid to be, like, a little bit annoying about it.
Get it all in writing.
Exactly. And if they're being vague, walk away.
Okay, good advice. So what's next?
Well, another tactic is they'll use these high-pressure sales tactics.
Oh, yeah, I hate those.
They'll try to create this sense of urgency. Like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You got to act now.
Oh, yeah, and they prey on your emotions.
Exactly. They want you to make an impulsive decision, not a logical one.
So what should you do if you feel that pressure?
Take a step back, breathe, A legitimate franchisor, they'll give you time to think.
Right, there's no need to rush into anything.
And be wary of, those limited time offers or guarantees of success. Those are big red flags.
It's your money, your future, so take your time.
Exactly.
Okay, what else should we watch out for?
Well, they might try to wow you with, amazing franchisee testimonials.
Oh yeah, those can be convincing.
But you gotta remember, they're carefully curated. They might even be fake.
Fake testimonials, seriously.
Yeah, it happens. So don't just rely on those. Do your own research. Talk to current and former franchisees directly.
Get the real story, the unfiltered truth.
Exactly. And pay attention to the language in those testimonials. If it sounds too polished or generic, that's suspicious.
Okay, good point. So we've covered 5 sneaky tactics so far. What's the last one?
This one's, it can be really bad. It's when they sell you a franchise opportunity that doesn't even exist.
Whoa, wait, what?
Yeah, it might be for a territory that's not real or for a business model that's, well, just not sustainable.
So like you're paying for nothing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And in the worst case scenario, the franchisor just disappears.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
It's a real risk. So before you invest, make sure the business actually exists, that there are real customers.
Right, can you visit existing locations, see the business in action?
Exactly. And if the franchisor is hesitant to provide that information, that's a bad sign.
Okay, so we've uncovered some seriously scary stuff today. But the good news is we're armed with knowledge now.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
And in the next part, we're going to dive into some tips for, actually avoiding these scams.
Stay tuned. We'll give you the tools you need to protect yourself.
Okay, so we've seen how these franchise fraudsters operate.
Yeah, they've got some pretty sneaky tactics.
But the good news is we can fight back. Our sources actually give us 7 tips to help avoid these traps.
7 tips. All right, let's hear them.
Tip number 1, and this one's crucial, is do your homework. Don't just take their word for it.
Absolutely. You got to be proactive.
So, what kind of homework are we talking about?
Well, the internet is your friend here. Start with online research.
Google it.
Exactly. Look for reviews from other franchisees, both current and former.
Okay, so see what people are actually saying about the franchise.
Yeah, get the real scoop. And you can also check out websites like the Better Business Bureau.
See if there are any complaints filed.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to, go offline, too. Reach out to current franchisees directly.
Pick up the phone, have a conversation.
Yeah, ask them about their experiences, the good and the bad.
Okay, that makes sense. What's tip number 2?
This one's a big one. Demand the franchise disclosure document, the FDD.
Yeah, the FDD, we talked about that earlier.
Is your best friend in this whole process.
But I gotta admit, that document can be a little intimidating.
Yeah, it can be pretty dense. That's where tip number 3 comes in. Get expert advice.
Call in the professionals.
Yeah, a lawyer or a financial advisor who specializes in franchises. They can help you decipher all that legal jargon.
Make sure you're not missing anything important.
Exactly. They can spot those red flags that you might overlook.
Okay, so do your research, get the FDD, and talk to an expert. What's next?
Tip number 4 is all about resisting those high-pressure sales tactics.
Oh yeah, those can be tough.
If they're trying to rush you or make you feel like you're going to miss out, that's a bad sign.
Like, this offer ends tonight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Legitimate franchisors, they'll give you time to think it over.
So take a deep breath. Don't make any rash decisions.
Yeah, walk away if you need to.
Okay, good advice. What's tip number 5?
This one's about checking the franchisor's credentials.
So, make sure they're the real deal.
Yeah, see if they belong to any reputable industry organizations like the International Franchise Association.
Okay, so kind of like a seal of approval?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good sign.
Yeah.
But remember, it's not a guarantee. You still got to do your own research.
Got it. So don't just blindly trust any organization.
Right. Tip number 6 is about knowing the true costs.
Ah, yes, those hidden fees.
It's not just about the initial franchise fee. You got to factor in everything: royalties, marketing fees, equipment costs, the whole 9 yards.
Get a complete picture of the financials.
Exactly. Make sure your budget can handle it.
Don't go in blind.
Definitely not. And finally, tip number 7, and this might be the most important one: trust your gut.
Trust your instincts.
If something feels off, it probably is.
Like if the franchisor is being evasive or if the numbers don't add up.
Yeah, listen to that inner voice. It's usually right.
It's better to be safe than sorry. Walk away if you need to.
Exactly.
So we've got our 7 tips. Do your research, get the FDD, talk to an expert, resist pressure, check credentials, know the costs, and trust your gut.
That's a great roadmap for anyone considering a franchise.
It's all about being informed and empowered.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've gone deep into the world of franchise fraud.
We've seen the good, the bad, the ugly.
And most importantly, we've learned how to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power in this game.
But before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with something to think about, a little challenge.
A challenge. Okay, I like it.
Imagine this. You're sitting face to face with a potential franchisor,
Got it.
and you have one question, just one, to figure out if this is the real deal or a total scam.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Only one question.
What would you ask?
That's a good question.
Think about all the red flags, the tricks, the hidden costs, everything.
Right.
What's that one question that would cut through all the BS and reveal the truth?
It would have to be something that really gets to the heart of it.
Exactly. Something that exposes whether they're genuinely interested in your success.
Or just trying to line their own pockets.
Because at the end of the day, it's your money, your future on the line.
No pressure, right?
All right. So as you continue exploring the world of franchises,
Which we definitely encourage you to do.
take that question in mind.
It might just save you from a world of heartache.
And remember, if it feels too good to be true,
It probably is.
trust your gut, do your research.
And never be afraid to walk away.
That's all for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, happy franchising.